Absolutely, and this holds true for anyone with a brain injury. 4 years ago, I was 52, I think. I was on 4 different dementia medicines at once. I was told to turn in, quote unquote, from my primary care, you have frontal lobe dementia, you need to turn in your driver's license, file for SSI, and get your finances in order. And I looked at him, I said, I have 3 kids, I had a wife at the time, I had a business at the time. What are you telling me? The game's over? And I pack it in. And so I started on hyperbaric oxygen treatments. I just had my 239th treatment this last week. Every 40 treatments, I go back to Dr. Amon's clinic and do a full 8-hour, full-blown neurocog evaluation. My microcognitive memory scores have improved, I believe, 16.3% now. And I'm going on 57 or 58. My memory is improving. I quit all 4 of the dementia medicines I'm on, or I was on. The craniosacral therapy was great. We did a week of just intensive, and that's just hands-on type stuff. By the second night, I had a major headache down there. By the second night, my headache was gone, and I was sleeping better, like I mentioned. I've done near-infrared light therapy, where they just put a little cap on you with near-infrared light will penetrate the skull, and it creates, I'm drawing a blank here now of this, and I do this all the time, but there's a substance your body produces when you cut yourself that starts the scarring.
Coagulation.
Pardon? Anyway, so it's a word that's escaping. So, but that near-infrared light will do that in the brain. So I've done the next. I'm leaving tonight. I fly out tonight at 10 o'clock for a week in Cleveland. I'm going to get 4 to 5 40-minute Nexlin treatments a day. I was down there a couple of months ago. It's just a magnetic electrode on my forehead, one on each mastoid bone, and it just repolarizes the cells. When you get banged around a lot, things get cattywampus, and so you get everything firing in this correct direction. I've done mega doses of omega-3 fish oils. They're almost, you get real high grade that have a 2-to-1 ratio of DHA to EPA acids. Well, that's basically what your brain and the myelin sheaths on the neurons are made out of, so you can repair that stuff. I do high doses of natural antioxidants, cranberry juices, blueberry juices, the latest and greatest, how do you pronounce the new one? Acai juice. Mm-hmm. Okay, so those are things that I'm doing. I use neuroplasticity. I try to do things out of the ordinary. If you're right-handed, left-handed, causes other areas of your brain to fire up. I'm doing everything in my powers to fight off where a lot of these guys have been going. So we have a whole if you go to our website, we have a whole list of my brain recovery program.
George, what's the website?
Well, the website is www.thevisgergroup.org, and it's a brain injury recovery clearinghouse. We have on our advisory panel, I have Dr. Rich Ellenbogen, I have Dr. Bennett O'Malley, I have some of the top folks in a number of fields, and we just set it up so people can come and get information, and if I don't have it, I can direct you to somebody else. So.
Can we get Chris to answer a question?
And I'll just add to what George was talking about. Obviously, George has extremely valuable information for people who have been dinged or severely impacted by any kind of brutal hit to the head. The value of this kind of movie is that I can cut it up and present it in any form. So what we're going to be doing is George and I are partnering, going across the country with our Brain Matters show. It's a multimedia show that first of all gives a social historical context to the value of the game. And then of course we talk about the brain injuries, and we actually get into the autopsy a little bit in much more detail, but show what parts of the brains have, so you can see the tissue damage, and then we correlate that to, of course, the behavior that part of the brain manages. George gets an opportunity to talk about his brain and the behavior shifts, and you'll be able to see his pictures and the scans of his brain. So it's a really educational opportunity. But beyond that is, all right, now what can we do? George is a guinea pig. He gets paid to go to these treatment facilities all over the country. And so part of my work will be showing up with George, filming some of those treatment technologies that are working for him that may help other people. He's not telling you that this works for you. He's telling you that these things are available so we can get more TBI treatment information, whether it's a supplement or technology or whatever it might be. So I'm just proud to be associated with George and his group. And
Todd, where's your website for the follow-up? What happens now beyond the movie? It was an amazing movie. Thank you for your years you put in. I know how hard it was.
Yeah, I saw you around.
Yeah, we started out you watching high school football, not
That's
sure
right, yeah.
where this story was going,
Right.
and I think you found out pretty quick.
Yeah.
So where do people go to find out more information about how they can get involved in about the movie and maybe about this stuff you just talked about with George?
The movie, this event happened pretty quickly. I
Right.
heard that Chris was going to be coming through town, and we made a premiere with his presence. So at this point, I have the main website is gridirongladiatorsmovie.com.
Okay.
That defaults you to savingfootball.com if you're on mobile device. So I'm trying to do all of the web stuff as well, so I get a little behind. So at this point, we have brainmatters.jimdo.com, JIMDO. It's a free site, allows you to build it.
Okay.
So
Good.
brainmatters.jimdo.com, you'll be able to understand what's happening for the national tour. So to answer your question, there's not a specific.
That's a good place to start.
Yeah, those three.
Can we ask Chris a question? I have a question for you, Chris. You've been all over media because of what you did, and you're 24 years old?
Yeah.
George is at the other end of that spectrum. We got people older than George passing away, and you're fairly fresh out of college. How do you want to go forward? What do you want your legacy to be? Obviously, you leaving the NFL and leaving behind, I'm presuming, millions of dollars to have a life for yourself. That made a statement in and of itself. Even if you never do anything further in this arena, it made a strong statement, one that Junior Seau made by taking his life, and that Dave Duerson made by taking his life, and that George made, Kim's making every day. So where do you go from here? What's in this for you now? Are you staying in the game? What are you doing?
I think in some capacity I'll be connected to this for the rest of my life. That's just the nature of, I didn't anticipate that it'd be this, it would garner this much attention, but
Right.
it has. And through this experience, I've met people like Rebecca Carpenter and Todd and George and Kim, and it just continues to compound. And there's so many compelling stories and so much important information that I'd like to be a part of it in some capacity. And it's kind of against my nature. I'm more of an introverted guy. I didn't really like doing the interviews. I never liked being the fame that accompanied playing football.
Right.
But I can deal with that. And if I'm the light by which some people come to this information, I'm more than happy to play that role for the sake of knowledge and for the sake of health and our youth and our future.
You realize as young as you are, everybody thinks you're crazy, and the football fanatics don't get it.
Yeah, no, it's been interesting. The money is on everyone's mind.
That's all they understand.
That's all, they see the figures and they say, well, how could you do this? And then, we just witnessed the film and that's how, and
So
to me it's clear.
You gotta be crazy to play the
Smartest
game anyway.
kid.
So
Take us forward. One last question. Take me forward 10 or 15 years. What's your dream? What do you want to be doing? Or are you too young to know?
I'm in the process of figuring that out.
Fair enough.
I'm currently unemployed, so if anybody needs their grass mowed or a babysitter.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm afraid of sounding like a bitter old man here, but in my days, I was a wannabe little guy on a very good high school team and on a, pardon my French, but shitty college team. And as a bench rider and a scout squad type guy, I found that a lot of times, this is kind of a cultural thing, I guess, if you were a starter and you had a hangnail, the trainers would be out there real quick to take care of you. But very rarely did a week go by that I didn't get dinged where I was seeing a few whirly or something. And I had some alley goobers that have caused me problems now here in my late 60s. But the coaches just didn't give a bleeping goddamn about the lesser players. And I noticed on this film here, I recognize the names, if nothing else, about the players who you've talked to and who you've studied in this thing. What about the bench riders that the coaches, the trainers say, I get out of my way, I got the star halfback, he's got a hangnail, I got to take care of that, he will run it off and throw dirt on it. I believe I heard Coach Bryant or somebody like that say.
I'm going to jump in on that. That was one of the things people said about my son. Well, he didn't start, and he played at a big Catholic high school where they recruited kids all over Reno. And I said, well, don't you realize those are the kids that are the crash dummies for the first string? So this is something that is coming to light a little bit more. And definitely people really didn't think about the kids who are riding the bench and being the ones who actually practice with the state championship team. You think think my son didn't take any hits being the crash dummy for a state championship team just because he didn't play in the game? So it's very important to know. And yeah, coaches have a tough time with this. And what we tell them is when you know better, you do better. When people tell me, well, Bear Bryant this and Vince Lombardi that, I said, well, that was 19, whatever. They're smart men. If they lived in 2015 with all the technology we have, they would start to understand human performance. I tell coaches, human performance peaks under praise, not pressure. You want to win? Get smart. Injured players don't keep playing. If I owned a football team, I told Mark Davis, the owner of the Raiders, this at Super Bowl in New York. Listen to me. You're supposed to protect your players because you're protecting your own asset. You're not getting this. There's somebody way in the back that's been really waiting.
Yeah.
I've watched my brother's health deteriorate over the last 3 years with brain injury, and it's been really tough. I know for him, but also for me as a family member. What advice would you give to the family who's dealing with brain injury?
I'm also a 37-year brain injury survivor. That doesn't usually come up because of all the other things. For family members, the biggest thing is realizing it's an invisible injury and that most people, especially football players, and I kind of fit in with them on this, we don't want to complain and we don't advertise what's going on. So as family members, you have to kind of read people and read between the lines. Also, educate yourself. I was sharing with George earlier in my office, I have a red, yellow, and green light, and that's for my kids because I used to scream at them when they would interrupt. So now when they come in my office, if there's a red light, they turn around and go out. So you have to start learning like some tools as a brain injury survivor of how you can help your family help you. So as a caregiver, learn everything you can. Get on websites like George, look at Amen clinics, and also make sure you care for yourself. As a caregiver, most people forget to take care of themselves, and you can't be a good caregiver if you're not taking care of you. I'll let George follow.
Good answer.
And I've always said that the families take a worse beating than we do. And in fact, I think about my first slide on my PowerPoint I give it. There's a quote from me during my work comp trial. I did sue the 49ers for workers' comp to get my second, third brain surgeries paid for back in the early 80s. But there's a quote from me that I stated, a traumatic brain injury is like throwing a rock in a pond. The number of people impacted is huge. I mean, it impacts, I come home, with the anger, things going on, and then my wife is upset, and she goes to school teaching the next day, and she's talking to her teacher friend about what's going on with me, and her teacher friend goes home and tells her husband, Michael's not playing football, Michael's upset, and I don't know how far out this goes. So the families take a beating. The families need as much help as we do. You need to look into, there's a number of different groups and survivor groups and things like this. We need to talk to the mothers You can go, my executive director for the Visger Group started Mothers Against Concussions. You can go to Renee's website, which is affiliated with ours. The mothers and the families, like I said, need as much or more help as we do. So know you're not alone. There are people out there that can understand what you're going through, and there's a lot of information that can help you. So, reach out to other groups.
Todd, thank you for the movie. Awesome. Chris, specifically, kind of on a personal level, was there a specific play that helped you make this decision, or was it just kind of over the years, high school, college, and then, the pro level? The second question is, the clips of the brain, those dark spots. Do we know what those dark spots are? Are they dead spots? What are they doing, or what are they not doing?
Well, the first part of the question, there was a moment in camp when I fit a lead play. A lead play is where a fullback and a linebacker have a one-on-one collision in a hole, and it's a short yardage play and a violent play. And yeah, I sustained probably a mild concussion on that lead play. Our fullback for the Niners is 290 plus pounds, but I played through it. I hadn't yet made the team. There was a chance I could still be our starting linebacker with Navarro Bowman out, so I played through it. But at that moment, I changed my thinking, and I started to read into it more and look it up online and find out what I could. So that I'd point to that moment as a pivotal time in my change of thinking.